Hello, everyone. I all hope you had a very, very wonderful, great day indeed, guys. Very sorry for actually shooting this late. I was actually busy walking my dog, Universe, giving her some fresh air as well, and also giving myself some fresh air, allowing me to also to actually think as well. Despite that, I was also quietly doing the house chores as well, and also writing about old and new characters from my new book as well, which were quietly in as well. Despite that, guys, I am so superly grateful for your support in watching and in viewing my episodes from TikTok, shorts and long videos as well, and as well, especially from TikTok and from YouTube, and as well from shorts, long videos as well. It completely, gratefully means a lot to me as well. May God bless you and be with you and stay with you in everything else you're doing and you're also trying to pursue. And be happy and enjoy your great, wonderful, great, blessed weekend. I'll see you on Monday. I'll be able to upload this episode on, I'll be able to upload the full video on Monday on YouTube. For those of you who are actually watching the YouTube channel, the full video of it on Monday, which you'll be actually to be receiving it. But for those of you who are actually watching Shorts and TikTok, you'll receive the video today as well. So have a blessed, great day and a great weekend. As you can see, guys, the weather is a bit on and off. So yeah, you might never know when it'll rain. So let's exactly begin. This episode is about the vampire race of the sacred world. These supernatural creatures have lived on the sacred world and also on the sacred universe for many centuries and for many centuries and for many millennia, and especially during in ancient times. They were quietly founded by the most powerful sacred vampire founder who was quietly rumored to have died and also to actually have non-existed during the beginning of the sacred universe's creation. So let's actually proceed. On the beginning of the entire sacred universe's creation, the sacred founders exactly began waging war against themselves after they fought their wars and battle up against the other founders, up against the other founders of the star universe, the robotics universe, the Mixel universe, the over universe, the dark universe, and the light universe as well, by fighting up against those founders of those universe. During which in those time the other sacred founder did develop his supernatural powers and ability, which was able to inherit as well, during which on that time granted him the ability of sensing blood and the ability of actually experiencing super thermal vision, of actually seeing drops of water in a far distance, and also inheriting the power of super hearing and the power of hearing a heartbeat in a very far distance as well. Due to this greatest ability that has been granted to him, he exactly discovered a way in order to transform himself into a powerful, deadly vampire, which he became the first of the vampires, the first of these people of the vampire race. And the other sacred founders named him the sacred founder, the vampire founder of the greater vampire race. During which, in those times, the great sacred founder of the vampire began exactly creating powerful new techniques and abilities and greater, darker powers by combining blood magic with dark magic in order to make the vampire race's DNA and bloodline solely primordial, very primordial and very powerful to its core in nature, so that his bloodline and his descendants may live for eternity and during the following centuries and the modern ages of the sacred universe and of humanity as well in the process as well. Little did he actually know is that the transfusion of dark magic and shadow energy might corrupt his powers and his abilities in the process, making him so very powerful and very paranoid and very much quietly unpredictable as well. Regardless to this, the other sacred founders exactly saw the vampire founder of the vampire race to be a powerful, terrifying threat of the sacred world, and they decided, in order to put him down and to purposely exactly neutralize him for the greater good of the sacred world and of their kind. Due to this, they battled for centuries and for centuries and for centuries, from the very beginning of the sacred world's greatest creation of its stories and all legends of its wars, that the greater sacred vampire founder disappeared after the great battle against the sacred founders, Due to his disappearance, he was able to exactly complete his dark ritual and his dark purposeful ritual of his power in trying to involve his bloodline and his future descendants known as the vampires, which will soon exactly be able to live among the other supernaturals and the other aliens and superhumans and Phoenician hunters who are also the descendants of the children of prophecy and the descendants of the sacred founders of the sacred universe and of the sacred world as well. Regardless to this, he successfully succeeded with his dark ritual, making his species and his kind very powerful and very primordial as well. Over the course of the many centuries and during the ancient times, the vampire race has grown to become the most powerful, deadly race and the most feared race throughout the sacred world. And according to sacred world's history, they have been living on dark planets, dark worlds, dark cities, dark civilization that completely exactly protect them from the sun, from them being decimated from the sun. Regardless to this, the vampires once exactly sought out a civil war with the world's witches, druids, warlocks, Phoenician hunters, aliens, superhumans, with all the other creatures of the sacred universe. They began a civil war against those creatures to press the sole control over the sacred world and over the sacred universe. After the civil war ended inside the sacred universe between the other creatures and the other worldly creatures, the origins exactly stepped up and brought peace and order to the communities of the great supernatural creatures and beings that lived there. The vampires exactly made no mistake that the origins of the most powerful, ancient, powerful beings and creatures that are more highly adaptable and more very powerful. They possess cosmic powers and supernatural powers and magical powers all in one creature, in one body, which makes them the most powerful, greater alphas of the sacred universe, and they can never be underestimated. Regardless of this, the vampire king sought that he needed that his people needed to change and also needed to adapt as well, seeing that the dark druids and the dark witches and the dark faithful and the dark sisters have also managed to adapt their power. He feared for his kind existence and for their very existence will be threatened to be wiped out and to be extinct by the original Lord of Magic, who wanted them dead, meaning permanently wiped out and cleansed for good. The original Lord of Magic believed that in exterminating the vampires and the rest of the blood suckers of the creatures of the sacred world and of the rest of the worlds, fairies, witches, druids, aliens, and supernatural creatures and magical creatures and powerful magical users and dark magical users and the Phoenician hunters and the origins, he would have exactly cleansed and purified. He would have actually exactly cleansed and purified the rest of the sacred world and the rest of the sacred universe from powerful, dark, monstrous monsters of evil that threaten the very existence of humanity, and which is what he was willing to do. But he was driven and obsessed with dark power and with the secrets of immortality, and he was also obsessed and blinded by his ambition and his obsession in trying to kill the prophesied child who hadn't exactly arrived at the time. During which at that time, the Vampire King sought out an opportunity, a very powerful opportunity and a very powerful ancient opportunity to make sure that his kind and his people survive. The vampires have remained under the former ruler and being led by the Vampire King for centuries and during the ancient times as well. During which in those times, the Vampire King exactly went out to the dark magic users and to the Blood Sisters, who are another group of powerful dark witches who are not very much ancient, who are not exactly as very much as ancient as the Dark Sisters or ancient as the Time Witches, who decided to keep the existence and the rest of the coven and the rest of the ancient Dark Witch coven and on the rest of the Dark Witch coven and the existence a total secret to the rest of the sacred world and throughout sacred history. Due to that, the Vampire King exactly entered the ancient, powerful, dark, magical crystal dark temple that was quietly on a volcanic island on the other worlds and planets of the sacred universe in order to speak to the Blood Sisters. The Blood Sisters exactly told the Vampire King that this ritual and that this plan of him trying to evolve his powers and his beings and his kind could be very dangerous and could be very, very powerful. There are devastating consequences that could actually pose a greater threat to the very, very much existence. The Vampire King exactly told the Blood Sisters he's willing to pay the ultimate price by any means necessary, and he's willing to do so whatever it takes to make sure that the vampires remain the sole dominant species of the sacred world and of the rest of the sacred universe. As long as the original Lord of Magic won't try to exterminate them when they have the greatest powers and abilities at their side, the war will be on even odds, as well as these people who have the power to adapt through daylight and through sunlight will soon become daywalkers, longer enough for them to actually be immune to the powerful dark magical attacks and cosmic attacks of the original Lord of Magic's cosmic forces. The Dark Sisters agreed that, not the Dark Sisters, the Blood Sisters exactly agreed that that is what the Vampire King wants, then it'll soon also benefit them in the process as well. So they exactly decided to proceed with the sinister dark ritual as well by combining and merging and infusing solar energy and with origin powers that are so blue, that are so freaking blue, that with radiant energy that is so freaking blue, and as well with shadow energy and light magic and crystal magic all in one, hidden in powerful dark crystal containers, and in the Vampire King quietly hidden in a very, very ancient powerful coffin. They began to infusing him with all those those ancient energies and powers, and they decided to exactly infuse them with all. The Vampire King exactly began to adapt and began to heavily evolved and began to become more powerful and more dangerous than ever before. He remained dormantly asleep during the following ancient times when the sacred civil wars of his people and his kind were being waged upon his people and the rest of his kind during those times when the ancient, powerful Fallen began his campaign, as I previously told you about the Fallen, who also began his campaign before the time of the original Lord of Magic. He also began his campaign attacking the sacred villages of the supernaturals and of the aliens and of the superhumans and of the fairies, witches, druids, Four-Nation hunters, and sacred hunters by using the power of the supernatural dragons and ancient dragons to besiege the whole entire villages with dragon fire in order to eradicate them permanently. Before that time, the Dragon King still exactly remained in hibernation, sleep in a coffin, adapting to his new form and to his new power and to his new greater ability, making him stronger and immune and extremely immortal, granting him long gravity super powers and greater super hearing senses and greater powers of controlling shadow energy and dark magic and practicing dark arts as well, making him more extremely powerful and deadly remarkable as a grand, remarkable, highly evolved vampire creature and being, very ancient and very, very powerful. The great Vampire King reawakened from his coffin, and he developed that his powers are highly adapted and evolved, and the rest of his kind were quietly waiting for him during the day he gratefully awakened. He told these people that it's time for him and his kind to begin their greatest assault on the Four-Nation hunters and on the other creatures, to place their sole dominance and control over the sacred world once and for all. On the particular ancient times, on the different times of the ancient times, the Vampire King and the vampires began an all-out war against the supernaturals and against the Four-Nation hunters, and the origins were forced to step in to ensuring peace and prosperity and sacred balance to the sacred creatures and to the other ancient creatures of the sacred universe and of the sacred world, which are forced to primarily actually do so. The battle from all sides is waged on for during the ancient times and during the ancient centuries, as it continued to go on until it was actually recorded and put throughout sacred history, except for the one ancient being who started the great ancient civil war against the other creatures, known as a Vampire King, who has been secretly erased on purpose in order to make sure that he was never known or ever heard of. Due to him being erased from the sacred histories books and stories and histories books and stories and everything else, the Vampire King and the other vampires were gratefully defeated by the Origins and by the Four Nation Hunters and by the other creatures. The other Origins exactly told the vampires to exactly accept the terms of the truce, to exactly making sure that they all live together in one another. The other vampires began to shun the Vampire King as the other vampires of his followers began to believe in the Vampire King himself. This created a friction among the vampire race, throughout the vampire race itself and throughout the vampire nation, while the other vampire elders and leaders exactly began to agree to the terms that the Origins have mysteriously provided to them, due to the Four Nation Hunters also interfering to that. Regardless of this exactly, the Vampire King began plotting and planning his own sinister plan to make sure that his species and his kind and the rest of his brethren and sisters remain alive for all time's sakes, and especially for what's yet to come as well. During which in those times he traveled into the known crystal worlds and planets, seeking powerful dark advices from other powerful ancient aliens and creatures and beings who could exactly offer him all the powers and all the mystic powers and the abilities. He even exactly went straightly to the stone fairies, asking them for the greater knowledge and for the greater abilities of powerful magical abilities and inception. They provided him all the endless knowledge and all the techniques that he could use, and he was able to exactly craft them. Due to this, the Vampire King believed that he was meant to actually make his final attack for his final dream to come to bear to reality, so that the vampire race will have sole control over the sacred world and over the sacred universe in the process. Due to this, he unleashed an army of monsters of his own and an army of dark, powerful, immortal, shadowy vampires of his own, as he began to march them, as he began to straightly march them through the sacred valleys and oceans of the sacred magical dimensions, schools and later colleges. But the Four Nation Hunters and also as well as the allies and the resources were heavily ready to fight. The battle waged on against the mighty Vampire King and against his forces of evil and against his most powerful abomination, which was never put into history. This battle was called the Shadowy Battle of Death, which was never actually recorded in sacred history, in order to keep the involvement of a powerful, dangerous, ancient force of evil known as the Vampire King out of sacred history's books and stories, so that he would not exactly create followers or many devoted followers or faithful to follow him. Unknowns to all the others, they actually did so and continue to do so and remain so as well. The battle was quite the greater battle than ever before, and the Vampire King lost. He was defeated. He was completely defeated, outmatched, and outnumbered. The Origins and the Four Nation Hunters, the fairies of the sacred magical worlds and of the dimensions, worked together with the witches, druids, and faithful, and with the Four Nation Hunters and with the Origins, who specifically exactly vanquished his army of vampire, shadowy creatures and monsters from the mysterious dark dimension where they were actually summoned from. They were able to exactly imprison the Vampire King in a very powerful cryogenetic free stasis pod, where he would remain solely imprisonment for all time. Him being imprisoned in a hibernation stasis pod actually preserved his immortality and his beauty and his very, very, very long gravity as well as his powers. He was actually transported far away from Elderly Granny's asteroid base for him to remain there for all eternity and for all centuries, which there were other Origins who believed that the Vampire King would pose a greater magnificent threat to when he returned. The Origins and the rest of the other Four Nation Hunters exactly went to the vampire worlds and planets and exactly told the Vampire Nation that the Vampire King has been defeated, so has his forces. So are any other vampires who are willing to successfully fight back and rise back, who also face the same demise of their leader. The other vampires exactly told the Four Nation Hunters and the Origins, that they have decided not to exactly fight back against the other creatures, and against the other races of the magical worlds and of the sacred world and of the sacred universe and of the known universe, that they'll remain throughout their home worlds and throughout their planets, and that they'll live peacefully among the rest of humanity, that they will not exactly try to create an uprising or try to retaliate. The Origins and the Four Nation Hunters gladly exactly see to it that they plan exactly work well as a vampire race, and the elders of the vampire race and nation decided to surrender and to agree to coexist with the other creatures. As centuries and years passed throughout the sacred universe, the vampire race began to see altercations and things being clearly been seen the way they always have been seen and made. They have always been seen exactly. The vampire elders and all the other vampires began to start seeing the truth that the Vampire King has been spouting and shouting out for many centuries and for many years, despite his warning for them not listening to his warnings as well. Regardless to this, the vampires started to see that the original Lord of Magic, Valak Hellfire, Zacchaeus Darkest, wanted them dead and permanently wanted them to be exterminated, meaning completely annihilated for good. And this time they had to see the truth for themselves, which means, in other words, the vampires began creating a powerful, sinister vampire cell organization that the Vampire King formed many centuries ago during the ancient times before he knew that he would be defeated. He took steps and measures to forming a powerful, shadowy, vampire celly, dangerous, dark, ancient, shadowy, elite criminal organization of vampires in order for them to actually begin taking control of the sacred world by force or by any means necessary. The organization was secretly beginning to be formed and beginning to secretly being reassembled by bit, little by little, during the course of the wars and of the conflicts that the Four Nation Hunters, and during the extermination of the Origins, who are also gratefully exterminated on the very day the vampires race realizes that they were completely about to be destroyed by the original Lord of Magic. They decided in order the way for them to protect themselves is to form the organization and begin its global campaigning in total secrecy and within the shadows as well. The other vampire elders and leaders and council members met up throughout their private chambers, throughout their dark private chambers, and discussed the leadership of the vampire nation and of the rest of the other vampire clan in order for them to decide who is worthy enough to lead them and who's actually quietly worthy enough to lead them and also guide them to the greatest glory and to the greatest prosperity of their goal and of their kind as well. The other vampires agreed that the elders should remain the sole leaders of the vampire race and that they should continue to remain so under the leadership. The vampire nation will still remain the same, but it will continue to evolve and adapt its ways and its also new greatest techniques and its powers. Above all that, the Four Nation Hunters gladly stepped in, took on the huge responsibility that the Origins took over as becoming the Omega and Alphas and Betas of the justice, of the sacred justice systems of the sacred world that the Origins used to try to maintain and also preventing all out wars and battles and conflicts. The Four Nation Hunters did exactly that, stepped in, but unaware there was a huge, powerful fraction within the supernatural races, clans, and aliens and superhumans who were quietly fighting amongst themselves, and the vampires secretly began planning and plotting their own evolution and their own very goal for them to actually survive. The vampire general agreed that with Vampire Boy and Jamie, who is also the vampire, stated to him that what the Vampire King saw and what he predicted did came to pass, that his predictions did came to pass, as the vampire race would not remain the sole dominant race as it should be, meaning in other words, they must take steps and precautions to make sure that their race gladly remains the dominant race. Jamie and the Vampire Boy and the other vampire followers agreed that it's time for them to begin their total plan and their total goal once and for all as well. On the 25th of January, on the death and the demise, as they call it, the great fall of the original Lord of Magic. The great fall of the original Lord of Magic, the demise of the original Lord of Magic, created a power vacuum within the Shadow Empire itself due to him facing his equal, known as a prophecy stated by the Fates, that the original Lord of Magic will be facing against the prophesied child who would actually exactly bring his demise to him. Grayson Ferris and the Universal Heroes brought a demise to the original Lord of Magic, which created further chaos and further disability towards the Shadow Empire, forcing all the other Shadow Empire warlords and commanders to start secretly forming alliances with ancient groups of supervillains, while the others formed their own faction and took control over the Shadow Empire by force and by will as well. In other words, during on that day, the vampire races exactly realized that an all-out war is about to bloom and that they have to start taking steps and measures to make sure that they protect their kind and the rest of their species as well, which they all persistently agreed to doing that as well precisely. On the 15th of February, when the disappearance of the Universal Heroes were fighting up against another powerful, ancient, sinister threat from the other side of the sacred universe, due to them disappearing due to a huge, powerful cosmic explosion, which was quietly created to them. This time, it created another power vacuum throughout the Shadow Empire itself, and every other Shadow Empire warlord and commander formed their own formidable factions of themselves, while the others strictly remained loyal and very, very loyal to the ancient groups of evil, supervillains, as by remaining as their associates, while the others decided to remain loyal to themselves by forming up their own factions and controlling the other worlds by themselves. And the others strictly remained loyal to the new Lord of Magic, known as Lord Jet, and his ancient, shadowy criminal organization that he was managed to reassemble and reform, that has existed as well during in ancient times as well. Rather the less, they decided to also to remain so as well. The other Shadow Empire warlords and commanders strictly went to the vampire worlds and planets and exactly told the vampire worlds and planets that they are at the disposable. The vampire race was finally very happy to see that the Shadow Empire warlords and commanders have not exactly forgotten them, since they remembered the ancient pact they made with them many, 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 many centuries ago. Yes, the Shadow Empire warlords and commanders had actually, guys, made an ancient pact with the vampire race during the ancient times, when before the age of the original Lord of Magic rose into power, and also as well as ascended to power, and during at the time when the Fallen began his campaign in trying to annihilate and exterminate the supernaturals, aliens, and superhumans, and the Formation Hunters, and all creatures, the Shadow Empire warlords, the other Shadow Empire warlords and commanders secretly made a pact with the other vampire creatures and beings that they will remain secret associates to them and only to them, because they share one thing and a very common goal, that their species and their kind remains the dominant sole rulers of the sacred world and of the sacred universe. So that was the pact, to remain allies and associate, which is what they all agreed to on that very day. So the Shadow Empire warlords and commanders exactly met up with the vampire race and beings, and exactly told them they remembered the ancient pact, and that they'll continue supplying the vampire race with more destructive and more compatible technology. The vampire race was very happy to see that things are finally going according to plan, the way they are meant to be as well. On the 20th of March, the Shadow Empire warlord battlecruiser was headed towards the vampire worlds and planet to try to destroy them and to completely end them and wipe them out. But due to the interference of the Formation Hunters, who are able to protect the vampire worlds and planets from being totally annihilated, the vampires exactly realized that the Formation Hunters are still doing up their job and are still able to hold up their promise in protecting them and as well as serving them, regardless of the ancient, powerful new threat of the new Lord of Magic and his ancient secret society, his organization that has been heavily formed as well. On the 15th of April, the vampire race exactly secretly convened on on an ancient, powerful crystal dark chamber beneath the vampire worlds, planets, and systems where they were able to meet on the crystal catacombs of the old cities and chambers, where they were able to speak openly and privately amongst themselves to discussing a way to discuss the next plan to furthering their plans and their goals of their kind soul existence, remaining the sole rulers of the sacred world and of the rest of the sacred universe, which they all agree to one thing, that they must exactly take control of the sacred universe. But the other vampires exactly told the other vampires that they don't have the powers that they used to have during in ancient times, which was made them more powerful and more invincible back then. Now, the sacred universe has powerful ancient heroes, mystical heroes who are highly evolved than they are. They are more highly less evolved than they are actually able to be directly evolved, and their powers are more experienced compared to their abilities. The others exactly agree that the Universal Heroes and the United Heroes and the Intergalactic Coalition of the Four Nation Hunters is more highly advanced and more highly evolved due to its powers and its abilities are more highly advanced than ever to many centuries of combats and wars. And this new Universal Man has managed to change the wars game and evolution to his own new advantages, to his knowledge and to his experience, and as well to his expertise and talents, meaning that the vampires also need new expertise and they need faster and greater modern expertise and greater modern civilization before they're completely exterminated and annihilated against the new Lord of Magic. The other vampires exactly agree that it's time for them to release the old former ruler and king known as the Vampire King from his imprisonment. The others exactly disagree to say that that'll be too risky and too hasty. He could unleash total chaos and total destruction. Regardless of the last, the other vampires told the other vampires that the Vampire King shared his common interest and care for his people and for his kind, and that he wanted to save them and protect them from being extinct. Whether he wanted to further his own goal and his own dream, he still cared for his kind and for the rest of his people. The other vampires exactly stated that the Vampire King cared nothing more but his dark ambition to having sole control over the sacred world, meaning that was the original plan of the goal, as the other vampires exactly stated, to have sole total control over the sacred universe and over the sacred world. That was the goal from the very beginning, as the other vampires actually totally agree with one another, as they all actually agreed on that. Regardless of the last, they all exactly put it to the vote, and the votes were all even, as the one vampire was quietly left behind, as the other totally agreed that the Vampire King must return, and that they need his greater immortality and a greater experience, and that with him by their side, he could begin his total plan, and they'll have more power than ever before. They all exactly agreed that that is what they want, and that is exactly what they shall exactly get. On the 25th of May, when the Universal Heroes actually attacked Elderly Granny's asteroid base, there were powerful dark followers who are also able to liberate the Vampire King from his hibernation cryostasis pod, able to take it, and they were able to exactly to be teleported by a powerful, mysterious dark warlock who were able to actually open up a portal for them to literally escape with the cryogenic freeze pod when the other members of the Universal Heroes were occupied fighting up against Elderly Granny and tried to take down her plans before she could easily conquer and enslave the entire known universe and the sacred universe and the sacred world, and placing it under the sole control of Lord Shadowjack's control and dominion, which Elderly Granny's plans were thwarted and they didn't actually bear fruit as well in the process. Regardless of the less, the Vampire King cryogenic free stasis pod was successfully able to be liberated from the asteroid base, and the vampires brought it straightly to the crystal chambers where the Vampire King remained at sleep. At that time, they began to exactly monitoring his vitals, his heartbeat, his powers, his immortality rate, and discovered that he's still exactly the same as he ever did, especially that now he's grown more beautiful and more very attractive and more very powerful as he is as well. On the 19th of June, the vampire race exactly reawakened the Vampire King back from the hotel in the human world where his cryogenic freeze pod was actually kept. They actually reopened the cryogenic freeze stasis pod and reawakened the long lost ancient former ruler known as the Vampire King. He was quietly very shocked and very very not satisfied with how reality and all the world has managed to evolve during his time, and discovered that many things have changed. The Vampire King exactly told the vampire race that he needs to get more educated on the modern society of humanity and on the modern society of the sacred world and on the modern society of the sacred universe to better understand what he's going to be fighting up against now, and that things have seriously have changed during his time, before his time, and before his age. The vampire successfully agreed, then that is exactly what they'll do as well. On on the actual of the 29 on the actual of the 29 on the actual of the 29th of July, the vampire race exactly fought up against the vampire hunters in trying to retaliate to taking control of the sacred world inside within planet Earth. The sacred world always also coexists with inside planet Earth, where the supernaturals, aliens, some of the other aliens are well known to humanity, and so are the superhumans, except for the supernaturals, who are also unknown to the rest of humanity. And all out war was quietly brewing as a vampire race decided to slaughter an entire race of werewolves, and witches and druids all alike. The Four Nation Hunters were forced to step in trying to restoring peace and relation to the supernatural community and to the alien community and to the superhuman community. The vampires exactly reported back to the king and exactly told him that the Four Nation Hunters were very well expected them to retaliate and expected them to actually attack them back. The vampire king told these people and his followers that he needs to go back to his cryogenic freeze pod and to remain asleep until he can come up with a better plan. But in the meantime, he will leave the vampire race and everything else in charge up to Jaime, who will take the lead up because he trusts him more than anyone else to take the lead of the nation. The other vampires completely agreed as well, as Lydia agreed that she will remain as the advisor to Vampire Jaime, who is also the protege of the Vampire King with Vampire Boy and the other proteges as well, who are also the proteges of the Vampire King, as well, who also have gained the power to adapt and to evolve with their new powers and with their new abilities as well. On the 29th of August, the vampire race exactly began to convene on an ancient, powerful, dark crystal cave with a powerful, dark holographic silhouette of a silhouette, dark magical being or ancient primordial being of a shadowy figure who concealed his identity and exactly told the vampire race that they're actually doing everything according to the plan, the way it's supposed to be, meaning the Vampire King's liberation was meant to be in hand. And now the vampires can successfully rise to the occasion and ascend as well, meaning it's time for them to reclaim what's rightfully theirs, to have total control over the sacred world and over the sacred universe as well. And the vampires exactly agreed what's the next step of the plan. The holographic dark figure in the shadowy hologram who concealed his identity told them it's time to exterminate the Four Nation Hunters and remove them out of the way. That by doing so, it'll destabilize the intergalactic coalition from within, and then it'll be able to crush the Universal Heroes allies and members and colleagues from within. It'll destabilize it and crushing it from the outside. And besides, do not underestimate the Universal Heroes' abilities in thwarting your operation and your successful plan. As the dark holographic figure told the vampire race, do not make the mistake of that, as many forces of evil have tried to take them down, but they learned the hard way that they can never exactly defeat the Universal Heroes, as they've learned the hard way. The vampires exactly reassured the dark holographic figure that they will do just that, to keep that warning precisely in mind as well. On the 20th of September, the vampire race exactly began using powerful dark crystals as the dark druids, the dark witches, and the dark faithful began secretly creating a powerful dark magical ritual of dark energy of power to infusing all the shadow power and energy to the vampire races, making them more powerful and more deadly than ever before. Due to this, the vampires became more powerful, more very greater, and more extremely more immortal. Due to the law of gravity, they inherit many supernatural senses, and many supernatural senses have also gained many supernatural powers and new dark powers and abilities as well at that rate. On the 29th of October, the vampire race began a global assault on the other worlds and planets as they began literally planning to conquer them by force, as they were forced to take immediate action. The Four Nation Hunters fought against these powerful blood-sucking creatures and beings as they discovered that their sun weapons and powers have no effect on them, that in killing them with the sun powers or energy literally did not completely kill them and literally did not completely decimate them, as they were completely immune, as they took a different approach by destroying them with powerful magical abilities and weapons, as the vampire race became decimated from within the other worlds and planets of the other civilization. The Four Nation Hunters realizes that the vampire nation and the vampire race has become strictly very much highly aggressive and impatient and very, very, very ruthless and eager to proceed its plans that they were meant to proceed many centuries ago, to have sole control over the sacred universe, and not willing to stop until they have total control of it, and by placing a dominance over the sacred universe as well in the process. On the actual of the 15th of November, the vampire race exactly began to convene on an actual hotel room where the vampire general exactly told the vampire followers that their planning of attack worked purposely, as the bait was completely taken. Now the Four Nation Hunters and the members of the Intergalactic Coalition will believe that everything else is about to go under control, and all out war is literally blooming. By doing so, they'll continue to try to destabilize the operation, and as well as liberating more worlds and more planets from the control of the Shadow Empire warlords and commanders, which soon the vampires will have sole control over those worlds and planets as well. Between after 2 months after the previous new year, after December and January, the vampire race was never again seen or heard of after within those 2 months between December and January. Between December and January, on the 15th of February, the other vampire members and elders of the vampire race began to secretly actually convene on one of the top bases of the towers of the world. And as the elders exactly convened with the vampire general, who actually told them that he mysteriously exactly released the vampire king from his greater eternal imprisonment, and that the vampire king is actually back to take sole control over the vampire nation. The vampire elders completely wanted to fight back, as they realized that this was a coup that was completely orchestrated by his dark followers, as the vampire general told the vampire elders and king that it's time for them to follow the vampire king, and also to believe in his wisdom and his long gravity and his greatest long experience in living longer, and as well in staying longer for all eternity. The vampire elders were forced to exactly accept the new leadership. As they actually did so, the others completely defected, and the others completely left as well. After March and April, the vampire nation exactly reconvened on the 20th of May on a powerful dark cave with the vampire king, who was quietly out of his cryogenic freeze pod. He was also very much concealing his identity with a very powerful dark holographic hologram, as he told the rest of his vampire followers and the rest of his trustworthy allies who quietly believed in his goal and his mission, and exactly told them that they'd done a very good job and a very well done mission. Due to this, he began actually demonstrating his dark new powers and ability by summoning a powerful ancient monster statue, another powerful ancient monster statue that hasn't been seen in centuries. This time, he told these people, with this new creature and with this new weapon at the disposal, the vampire race will have full soul, total control and dominance over the sacred universe and the rest of sacred existence. It's just a matter of time until they find a way to converge all the powers and everything else, which means, in other words, the shadowy vampire cell organization must begin to be reassembled, and they must start finding and assembling powerful criminals, powerful, dangerous, ancient criminals to join their cause and their organization, together with their abilities, their expertise, their talents, their connections. The others possesses influence, and the others possesses greater, darker abilities and higher connections to the Four-Nation Hunter system and to the Sacred system and to the Universal Council system, and with a higher influence to the Sacred World and to humanity, they might have all the power and all the resources they need to finally have sole control over the sacred universe and as well throughout the Sacred World. Meaning, in other words, the vampire race will remain the sole dominant ruler of the Sacred World, and nothing will be able to stop them. They'll be able to conquer thousands of worlds and planets in the process. And to do this, they will capitalize on it, and they'll compete against the other ancient secret societies, such as the Order of the Five and the Order of Power and the Order of Death and the new Lord of Magic and Lord Clay, to remove them out of business and out of power, and especially the king, the great king, the darker king, the great dark king, and as well the members of the founders. By removing the founders, especially the founders and the Universal Prince and the Order of the 12 and the Star Prince and Red Bolt out of commission and out of power. And regardless of this, the Vampire King exactly told the vampires and his followers that the Universal Heroes don't pose a threat now that he has learned about them. He told them that they can be used as pawns rather than to be executed, when they could serve a very greater, crucial, ancient role and a very powerful role to their game that they were willing to play to fulfill their ancient plans that they've been planning for centuries and during the ancient times. And the vampires successfully agreed on that as well. On the actual 29th of June, the members of the Vampire Shadowy Organization began to reconvene on an ancient, powerful, secret dark cave where they were able to conceal their holographic identities on themselves by using dark holograms of themselves, and they were discussing the furthering of their plans after the years of Quapi passed, and the furthering of their plans and their goal, and also realizing that Clay has formed his own ancient secret organization and that he's becoming a dangerous threat and posing as a powerful obstacle that must be removed from power once and for all as well. After that meeting, after 2 years since that meeting, and the members of the vampire race have secretly convened on the 16th of September, the Vampire King exactly remained on the tallest tower of the vampire world, as was able to rule it with an iron fist until the new member of the organization exactly called upon him and told him that the mysterious dark figure is here to speak with him. The Vampire King exactly met with his mysterious colleague, who he grew fond of over the following ancient times, who shared the same goal and belief as well, and who also believed in his obligation and his ambition as well. The two of them talked and spoke. The mysterious figure who sat on the shadows of the tower exactly told the Vampire King the vampires will have total control of the sacred world and of the sacred universe, and that the mysterious shadowy figure told the Vampire King not to underestimate the Universal Heroes, especially the greatest members of the Universal Heroes. They are not meant to be underestimated. The newest member of the Vampire King's organization told the mysterious shadow that they are not afraid of powerful children or any kids, and that they should exactly spare them the hardly-ful words that they can actually take care of the greatest kids, and that the Vampire King is more powerful than the Universal Heroes, and that he knows the hard way how to handle them. Regardless of the last, the mysterious shadowy figure decided to completely depart and leave, and he told the Vampire King that when all of this has been put in order and all their plans have successfully bear fruit, everything will be finally to be restored in order and put in place. The shadowy figure exactly told the Vampire King to tell the newest member of the shadowy organization to begin reconvening and begin sealing up the ancient dark magical power within the monster statue. After that, take steps and measures to make sure that the civilizations of the vampire race know that you are the rightful savior and godlike being who should never be underestimated. The Vampire King exactly agreed to that. After that, the rain of lightning and thunderstorm began to be cast upon the worlds of the vampire world, and the mysterious shadowy figure began to disappear as the lightning began to hit the tower as he completely left. Regardless of this, the Vampire King was completely pissed and very much not happy to what the mysterious shadow figure exactly said. as his newest partner actually asked him, is he actually okay? The Vampire King exactly told the partner they should focus on the pressing things of their goal as well. Despite this, guys, the vampire race is extremely immortal, powerful, ancient, civil, greater race than ever before. According to the Four Nation Hunters, the vampires are the most blessed creatures with immortality, extremely immune to sunlight. Some of them are quietly known to be known as day walkers. They were quietly actually one of the rarest, powerful, invincible, formidable, supernatural creatures and beings that have lived on the sacred universe, on the sacred world throughout the ancient times and also during the following centuries of the sacred world as well. Due to this, the vampire race is exceptionally skilled in teleportation, super speed, super hearing, sucking blood, initially taking blood from other creatures and other beings, adapting to sunlight with the power of super hearing, the power of summoning, the power of combining and infusing themselves with shadow energy, with light, magic, and with crystal power, able to adapt and evolve and become more powerful. They're also great and very intelligent beings and very, very clever and smart, truly blessed with greater immortality and with long gravity. Due to this, they are solely immune to the sun. Some of them are solely immune to the sun. The others of them having quietly managed to be unable to literally to be immune to sunlight, while the others are actually immune to sunlight due to their bloodline being so primordially powerful, dark, dangerous, and highly evolved bloodline, thanks to their former ruler and their former godlike monk founder known as the Sacred Vampire Founder, who blessed them with extremely greater dark abilities and powers, and as well due to the Vampire King also being granted the power of solar energy and of solar magic and greater power as well, which the vampire race was able to adapt and evolve to that. Some of the other vampires have begun to adapt to evolve to the sun, while the others haven't not exactly been granted the greater powers and the ability. As I've said before, the other vampire races of the sacred world and of the sacred universe have been granted greater powers and greater abilities to others who are less greater than the others, and some of them are lesser, different, and less powerful and less greater, more powerful. They've been granted the greatest ability of greater endurance and agility, super limping, super jumping, super hearing, greater power of greater individuality, and the power of regenerative healing, and the power of super senses, and the power of seeing things very much quietly up close, of seeing things very quietly up close with super sight, and with the greater power of super vision to see things in a greater way. Some of them are blessed with extremely greater immortality. The vampire race is a highly evolved, advanced race that has more thousands of worlds known as the vampire worlds under their sole control, which has been placed under the current leadership of the Vampire King, who also ruled and conquered many worlds and managed to form who managed to form the colony worlds and cities and civilization of the vampire nation and clans that coexist with the other warlocks, druids, witches, and powerful, ruthless, dark magic users that exist. The vampire race is extremely intelligent, very powerful, very immortal, extremely primordially gifted with dark magic and with the powers of the dark arts, and extremely blessed with immortality, highly adaptable, very evolvable. They can easily evolve and they can easily adapt to their greatest power and to their greatest techniques. Very skillful in forming formidable alliances with ancient, powerful, sinister threats such as the Blood Sisters, the Greater Blood Sisters, and as well as the Shadow Empire warlords and dark warlocks and dark druids and dark witches and dark faithful, able to utilizing their expertise and their talents and their greater knowledge with dark magic and technology. They're able to respect their associates and their allies with their terms on an agreement as well. They're extremely immortal. They live among the human race in total secrecy. As I exactly said before, the sacred world literally coexists within humanity, within the human world, which means, in other words, it's an invisible, powerful world, and also with its own universe in a brink of total war from the other side. Many of the other vampires have lived on humanity for many centuries, while the others have decided to remain on the sacred universes, on the sacred universe, which is one of the home worlds and planets in the other civilization. They are very skillful, very adaptable, very good in maintaining a basis of operation as well as a central headquarters, which is a beautiful building of a hotel as a cover up to hide the true form and their identity from the rest of humanity, to make sure that the blood business, they managed to create a powerful blood banking business in order to sell blood to the rest of the human communities and cities as a way to cover up the supernatural existence of a kind and a dark secret. The Four Nation Hunters very well know that the worlds, witches, druids, faithful, superhumans, and aliens all live inside humanity and all coexist with mankind. And they managed to keep the communities all together, to live together, and to coexist together as well. But the vampires have had a long, darker, everlasting ambition to rule and have sole total control over the sacred world and over the sacred universe. The tension and the friction among the vampire nation has been mandatory to remain there for centuries, and it still is being divided in fractions due to the others being very loyal to the vampire king, and the others being very loyal to the vampire council, and the others being very loyal to the new Lord of Magic and to the Four Nation Hunters, and the others wanting a civil war against the other supernatural and against the aliens and against the superhumans and against the Four Nation Hunters. So you see, it's a divided fraction, and the supernatural community and the alien community and the superhuman community is as well also divided from within. They all share the common interest of hating the Four Nation Hunters, as they don't believe in their words, but the others believe the Four Nation Hunters, and the others fight against their own people to try to sway them and persuade them to join forces with the Four Nation Hunters, to aid them and to aid the universal heroes on their respective goals to restoring peace and balance and prosperity and relations to the sacred world and to the sacred universe, which is what they've been trying to do for all centuries since the origins were extinct during that time. But the great original Lord of Magic and the vampire race realizes that the new Lord of Magic poses a greater threat to their very existence, who want them to be exterminated. And due to this, they've also taken drastic measures and steps to protecting themselves by infusing themselves with shadow energy and power, to creating hybrids of their kind and of their species, so they can coexist and live longer towards the sacred universe, so they can become extremely immortal and powerful. There are ancient books and writings about the vampire race in the sacred ancient archives about the vampire race's existence and how they're able to exist, and their origin exactly dates back to the sacred vampire founder, which the story is quietly in the ancient vampire worlds and planets, on the ancient caves and on the ancient caves and borderline caves, on the ancient caves and ancient temples, on the worlds which the vampire worlds and planets also have vampire powerful dark crystal temples, as they use to practice the dark rituals and a powerful dark magical rituals and a witchcraft and a dark arts witchcraft at will. They are powerful ancient magical pictures and statues of the sacred vampire founder and of the vampire king, being one of the strongest and one of the formidable vampires who have ever existed throughout the vampire race. And those pictures tell an ancient story of how the vampire race can easily adapt and highly evolve. They have powerful dark followers of magic users who follow them and who literally join forces with them. And the others are very skeptical, so optimistic, while the others are the modern vampires who believe in existing in peace. And the others believe in the Omega sacred founders, who are the sole destined rulers of the sacred universe, who have also began to create a highly evolvable species of creatures that can highly adapt and evolve as well, which they've also began to create highly powerful Omega vampires who can adapt to more power and gain more forbidden power and magic at will as well. The vampire race is stronger, formidable, ancient, powerful, and very greater, and a very particularly stronger and also very formidable race. According to Firebird, the vampire race is one of the strongest, formidable clansmen race of all sacred existence, due to them being immortal and there are thousands, billions of their kind scattered across the sacred worlds and the known worlds of the other magical worlds and dimensions. Thousands of their kinds. Do you know any idea how many worlds and planets they've conquered due to their experience and long gravity, thousands, many of them. Firebird exactly told Grayson Ferris, the prophesied child, the new universal man, that the vampire race is excessively skilled in hand-to-hand combat, in intelligence, and also in greater information. Very resourceful race who can never be underestimated. They possess greater, powerful, and formidable abilities and techniques as well. Oh, also one more thing, guys. They've also lived during the other previous different ancient times where the Omega Sacred founders began an all-out war against the Children of Destiny, which that war also altered the fate of their kind's existence, which made their bloodline so very primordially immortal and very greatly powerful as well, granting them long in gravity and long immortality. And due to the long gravity and to the immortality, they believe that they are destined to rule the sacred world and the sacred universe. Well, that's it for today, guys. I will exactly see you on Monday. Have a blessed, great day, and a very much of a great week. Enjoy yourself and take care good of yourself. Love and appreciate your support. Please like and subscribe to my channel. I always appreciate that. May God bless you. Have a blessed, great weekend and take care of yourself as well. I'll see you on Monday. I'll be able to upload this episode on Monday as well. For those of you who are watching shorts, you'll receive the shorts today. And for those of you who are watching TikTok, you'll receive the TikTok video today as well. So God bless you. Take care. Have a beautiful, greater, blessed weekend and enjoy yourself and stay safe and stay happy. Take care and love you all. Bye. Bye.